Today, I got together your two favorite Rise of Kingdoms geezers to talk about how this game has changed over the years and if it's gotten better or worse. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another Rise of Kingdoms episode from your very own Chappie. And today, I'm joined by OmniArc. What is up, buddy?
What up, man? We're doing another video.
Oh yeah, people always seem to love these collabs. I've had so much fun just bringing someone on and just having a conversation. I've done it with Gaines a couple times, and people are like, "Oh, it's wild to think that people just talk." And I'm like, "No, really?"
Imagine that. Imagine that. The worst part is that I'm so bad at collabs. Like, I feel so bad because people ask me, and I am awful at time management. And so I just thank you for being so flexible with your schedule.
I'm I'm happy to be flexible. If I need to beat down your door every now and then, that's fine by me. I love having you on, so it's always a
Thanks.
pleasure.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. So without further ado, today's topic is Rise of Kingdoms. No, really? But actually, we're talking about how Rise of Kingdoms has changed. I started playing Rise of Kingdoms March 30th of 2019. OmniArc, when did you start?
Oh, I think it's October 2018. I think.
Holy cow, you have me
Yeah.
beat.
Yep.
So, we've been playing Rise of Kingdoms for a while. I'd like to consider us somewhat experts on the subject at this point.
Yeah.
We make a couple of videos, we try and tell people what to do. Eh.
I mean, my comment section would beg to differ, but it is what it is.
Yeah, right? It's all entertainment value anyways. On that note, be sure to drop a like if you like this kind of content. So, Rise of Kingdoms has changed a lot. I think when we both started, like, Kingsland and KVK, and none of that was really even a thing. It was just home kingdom. There was no migration. You started, and that was it.
Yeah.
What?
Yep. I remember I started playing before Ark of Osiris was even a thing. I remember the first ever Ark of Osiris we did too, when that was the latest game mode.
Oh man, that was the best. I remember. I haven't played Ark of Osiris in a long time, and I haven't seen a lot of the changes. But I remember when Ark first came out, I was one of the Ark coordinators. I was telling everyone, "You got to garrison. Garrisoning is the way to win Ark. Don't bother with the Arks. Just get the last one." And now, like, you look at the Osiris League teams and these people who
It's
practice
insane.
7 days a week, and I
Yeah.
can't even.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't tell you either. I haven't done Ark. I just for the longest time I worked weekends, so it just wasn't possible. And then now I just find that I value my free time on the weekend so much. But I remember playing earlier, like way earlier on when it was a brand new game mode, and it was a lot of fun back then.
Yeah, no, it was a blast. I think a lot of things in the game were a lot of fun. Kingdoms were different. You had these mega kingdoms. They had a really fun period where you could actually migrate during KVK. I had a great
Mhm.
time when that happened. We had a bunch of people migrate into the enemy kingdom. That was
Surely,
fun.
what could go wrong, right? I mean, come on.
So we've had a little bit of an adventure. I remember before they launched equipment when I could be a rally and garrison lead. Could you imagine?
Literally.
$5
Yep.
a month rally and garrisoning? What?
Oh my God. I so in for full transparency, in preparation for this video, I did take down a couple of notes of things that just some things that I realized have changed for better, for worse. And I wrote down a couple of things about equipment. And I do remember back in the day when you could kind of have best in slot gear and it had like a purple piece and a blue shield and like just these random like non-legendary pieces, because if you got the special talent on them they were as good or better, right? And I do miss those days because it was more interesting, I would say, to kind of like build a set, because nowadays it's just get the golden one, right? And there's
Yeah.
there's a little bit of variation, but it just doesn't feel the same to me.
I feel like the meta in Rise of Kingdoms has gotten stale. Like, I feel like when you first started playing, it was not always clear what the best setup was, whether it was equipment, whether it was commanders. Maybe that's also because there weren't a lot of content creators, and that's partly why I did it. But Nowadays, it's like everyone you run into is always running the meta marches. They always have the meta equipment. Anyone who's
Mhm.
starting today didn't screw up any of their commanders like all of us old veterans.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's changed things a little bit.
I think I mentioned this back before, probably around the time Belisarius Prime came out, but I think I made a video or I mentioned it in a video where I thought that Rise of Kingdoms felt a little bit solved. And sort of feel that way still, but also like when they started going all in on smite damage and then combo damage came out of nowhere, and then we had true damage. And now we have whatever Emperor Chin's going to be doing, right? So I think there was definitely a moment there where I was, like, really convinced that, like, we just everyone figured out the game, and now it's changed. It's shifted a little bit away from that, but I do agree that there's not really much mystery when it comes to the actual, like, meta marches themselves. I think that's pretty much set in stone, right?
Yeah. Yeah, true damage. That's a fun one. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
where did that one go?
I don't even know what you're talking about. What true damage? Yo, can you imagine? Oh my god, imagine if Lilith just deleted true damage from like Shajar's kit and just made it single target skill damage and then just gaslit everybody. And they're just like, we never did that. I don't know what you're talking about. It's
No,
always been a 2800 skill shot.
it
That would
it
be, I would love that.
it was a typo. The same way
Yeah.
Zhuge Liang was always supposed to be secondary. You didn't know that?
Hmm. Yeah. You know what? That actually isn't even right.
Yeah, it's
People
wrong.
blasted it. It's not even right. Yeah. I, I actually haven't looked in a few days. Maybe they changed it back, but yeah.
Oh my god. So let's talk about it. We've been here a while. What are some of the things you miss about how the game used to be versus how it is now? It can be mechanics, it could be game modes. You tell me.
So one of the things that I miss is the viability of tank marches. So if you remember way back in the day when Richard first came out, maybe you weren't playing right when he first came out, but it probably was the case for you when you were in KVK1 that people would run around with like Richard Bartel and you knew like, okay, don't attack that because you just can't kill it, right? I
Oh yeah.
remember my first ever, and the reason why I started going all in on infantry is because I remember my first few ever Ark of Osiris matches, I saw some of the strongest players in our kingdom playing with Richard Martel, and my mind was blown. People were piling onto them, trying to kill them, and they were just deflecting it off like it was nothing, dealing counterattack damage. And I was like, man, that's so cool. And I think these days that's not really a thing. Like there's not really a tank march
No.
like that. Right.
No, there's not. I
There's
mean,
marches
there's
that will, yeah, they'll punish you for storming them maybe, but they won't tank it. They'll just hurt. You know what I mean?
yeah. And even then they don't punish you that much. I do think
Mhm.
Richard Martel was a great tank. One of the last great tanks was probably Attila Takeda. I mean, Attila
Mhm.
Takeda,
And
that one, even now, even with some of the marches that you have in game, if you swarm that thing and you have fewer troops, you're gonna have a hefty hospital bill. Yeah, those are the days. I wish they would add
yeah.
that back. I'm hoping that Chin offers a little bit of that for archers. I do
Mhm.
think archers are the ones that need it just because they're so damn slow. But
For sure.
yeah, that's a good one. I mean,
And even if we look at Attila Takeda, right, I would barely classify that as a tank march. I would say that march just really hurts to hit. I guess if you look at all the defense on Takeda and when you look back when they first came out, that was just a lot of stats. So I guess in that regard, I guess it was pretty tanky, but like yeah, I don't know. The true like when I think about like World of Warcraft, right? You have the holy trinity of DPS, tank, healer, right?
yeah.
And in Rise of Kingdoms, you just have DPS, AoE DPS, single target DPS. Maybe there's one guy running a Trajan Phillips somewhere off on the corner. Like that, then maybe there's a little support, but there's really no Holy Trinity in ROK. It's mostly just bring as much AoE damage as you can, and it's been like that for years. And I would like to see some more tanks just to change it up. Like maybe it'll break the meta, who knows? But like just break it and see what happens. Like just make it interesting, you know?
It would certainly make field combat more fun. I mean, I think one
Mhm.
of the problems going back to the whole rally garrison thing is when anyone can be a rallying garrison, it changes the dynamic of the game and also gives you more opportunity. Like, I
Mhm.
don't know about you, but KVK fighting with murder balls just zoomed out using strategic view is
Yep.
not that exciting to me. right? Like
I
range
agree.
combat mixed things up a little bit, but okay, let me just drag and drop and drag and drop. Oh, hotkey, let's retreat.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I mean, as you know, I pass opening was at 10:30 this morning for me, so I've been playing all day in dot mode, and yeah, dot mode. I almost wish they just got rid of it, um, just so that way all of us are on an unfair like that way we're all disadvantaged in the same way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, think about it for, like, you and me, right? Like, we wanna make content about the game, right? And so I would like to film my fights, but then when I look back on it, it's 2 hours of me just clicking gray dots, and it's like, do people really wanna watch that? I don't know, but if I don't play like that, then I'm at a disadvantage, right?
Right,
So,
and then your trades are terrible, and everyone says, your favorite line, which is Omniarch's a farmer, right? Isn't
oh,
that what you bet?
yeah, but that's gonna happen regardless. There's nothing I could do about that, you know?
So they've added a lot of stuff recently. They have
Mhm.
Quinn, he's fine. What do you think? Have they been doing a good job?
About things that they've added recently?
Yeah, the new mechanics, the
Mm,
armaments, the interesting addition of new legendary equipment without the way to scrap it.
mhm. I think you can separate this into 2 camps. I think if you look at what they're doing in the new kingdoms and how they're trying to add, like, vengeance mode and, like, all these, support skills, almost support skills for, like, Minamoto, Cao Cao, and those commanders, I think they're doing a lot of really cool things in the early game that I'm here for, and honestly, I wish they had done it 3 years ago. Um, so that's all good. If we look at new mechanics from a perspective of the smite talent tree, the combo talent tree, and all that. I like that as well. I like the idea of new types of damage and they act differently and all this other stuff. I like that as well. You definitely lose me a little bit when we look at some of the new formations, like the pincer formation and the delta formation. Um, this KVK that I'm in right now, and full transparency, I've only been fighting for a few hours, so I can't say conclusively, but I swapped out my previous formation on my King Arthur for the Delta formation, and it was like night and day. Like my Arthur just performs so good now.
Oh
And
no.
so it feels a little weird that it's just like that one little formation change, just now I feel super powerful, right? And I think that there's definitely you're riding a fine line when there's that much power creep in systems like formations that are pretty RNG heavy. So that definitely is not don't I don't if I were the developers, I definitely would have done all of that differently for sure.
Yeah.
What about you? Look, yeah.
Well, what about me? Ah, man. I think the legendary equipment thing, everyone made a stink. I thought we should make a stink. Lilith did nothing. So I'm a little peeved about that. I like the new
Mhm.
commander mechanics. I really like what they've done with Quinn. I think they've kind of turned this whole rage mechanic that honestly has never really been anything because everyone had the same rage requirements with the exception of like
Yeah.
Genghis Khan and XY. So like
Yeah.
I'm pumped about that. I am pumped about the new crystal tech changes. From everything I've seen, it's really closed the gap, which is nice. Although
Mhm.
I came from a time when there was no crystal tech in KVK and you just played for fun, which
Better times, huh? Better times.
still wish they would introduce a crystal tech free KVK. I mean, Lilith,
Yeah.
maybe I can only do it like 1 out of every 3 or 5 times, but let me do it.
Mhm.
But, you know, I think overall they've done some good things. The armament system has been a challenge for me. And maybe
Mhm.
it's because I'm on my 5th KVK loss streak and I just now got paired up against 1365 and 2489.
Mhm.
So perhaps I'm a little salty about the whole OTARC system.
Yeah. Yeah, it is kinda crazy how that is a big progression point, and it's just like, if you just get unlucky with matchups or whatever the case might be, like, sorry, you just don't get those legendary inscriptions, like, that is a huge bummer.
Yeah, so like that's not the best. I think the other challenge I'm facing is, you mentioned you swapped over your combo formation. Well, I can't do that. I only have 5 conversion zones, so it's like, "Ooh, what do
Mhm.
I do? Do I kinda half-ass it and swap it? Do I not half-ass it?" I've also
Mhm.
been working on my ranged march. I don't do you have a ranged march yet? Have you built yours out?
No. I feel I always have something to work on. So if I'm gonna build a ranged march, I have to stop my progress on some other march, and then every couple of months, there's just a new commander that comes out that's so good that I have to keep running that march.
Yeah.
And so my 5 marches are fleshed out, and I feel really good about them, and I'm still making progress on all of them, and I just don't see it. I don't feel like I need it.
Yeah. I think for me, it's just been, like, one of those things that I really want, especially to swap out my archers occasionally. Like, they just
Mm,
my archers will just be doing terribly, and I'm like, "Okay, let's plop something down and gather free kill points," because honestly, that's kinda what ranged is. You know, if you have
mm.
patience and you can micromanage it, it's a pretty good thing. I don't
It
know,
sure seems that way.
I think other things Lil has done over time have been massive flops, like looking at
Mhm,
museum. Let's talk about the
mhm.
museum system. I just made a whole video on it.
I actually wrote museum down as well. It is a it's almost like a gold mine that I'm just waiting for them to go after because I actually really like the museum system, like the concept of museum relics. I actually really like that a lot because it gives viability to older commanders, right? Um, but I want them to expand the system. Like I think a lot of the buffs that these commanders get are very mundane, not enough to do nearly anything for the commander's viability. And they're very basic buffs as well. And then on top of that, like we need to see these relics. You got to crank them out faster because by the
Mhm.
time they come out, the commander's so irrelevant that it's like it doesn't even matter. And so like I feel like there's so much they could do with that system that would be really awesome. And yet, unfortunately, it's kind of just than a very bare bones, like, cut and dry type of thing, and most of the relics are irrelevant.
Yeah, I feel the same. I think it's the same deal kind of with artifacts almost, where it's like they have it. It's a great mechanic. Everyone loves it. You're
Mhm.
like, they just I need to have it more, right? Make it more accessible. Put them
Mhm.
in all
Mhm.
KDKs, right?
Right.
Such that if I want to throw Attila behind Martel, right, and have the tankiest, most obnoxious counterattack damage march, I can do
Yeah.
that, right? And I
Yeah.
think that helps mix up some of what we were talking about earlier, where it's like everyone's running the same marches. You sit there, oh, you see the archer tag. I'm gonna
Yeah.
attack the archers because that's what everyone does, right?
Mhm.
I think they need to find ways to mix up the combat in this game because it's just boring. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like the combat, and here's the thing, and maybe I'm in the minority here. I like how the combat is kind of simple. Like you just face smash into an enemy ball, and the bigger ball wins. I'm like kind of oversimplifying it, but that's more or less what it is.
Yeah.
But I think the the variety component can be fleshed out way more, and I feel like it would be way easier to do that. The risk is that there is a balance, like there is a fundamental meta balance that the developers are trying to achieve in that, infantry is garrison, and then the rally meta is usually archers. Sometimes it's calves. Right now, it seems like it's calves a lot. And then one or the other is like the field meta. For the
Right.
first like 4 years of Rise of Kingdoms, cavalry was field meta for sure. Right.
Yeah.
And so, I think there's a balance that they don't want to mess with. And I can respect that. But I think right now we're maybe a little bit too conservative and we got to like open it up a little bit for experimentation.
Yeah. Were you part of that shifting gears exhibition match?
No, I don't remember why. They invited me and I was like on vacation or something was happening where I wasn't available.
Yeah, so no one's played that KVK and I don't know that many people like it, but the exhibition match was so much fun because the way it worked was essentially there are 2 unit types that you can convert any march to. And they're
Yep.
ranged unit types, and they're, like,
Mhm.
really OP. One of them has, like, a ballista, and the other has, like, little tiny arrows, and so they shoot at different
Yeah.
frequencies and do different amounts of damage, but, like, just the change in combat style was so much fun because you had this situation where, like, you can't just face smash in because you get sniped out by these ranged marches to the point where you actually can't move forward. And that was so new and interesting to me, and I think that's a lot of fun.
Everyone always called me a ranged hater, and I can completely see why they would arrive at that conclusion. Yeah, I can admit that ranged are part of the army like meta, and there's instances where you can use ranged, and that's fine. But I actually, if we're gonna circle this back to the way Rise of Kingdoms used to be, I actually like the game more without range, just
Oh.
flat out. Like just my personal opinion. I just whether it's ranged marches or like in our current KBK, you can convert a flag into an arrow tower, right? And it will automatically fire at cities. I don't love the mechanic, right? And so a lot of different instances of ranged in the game, I just, for my personal opinion, I don't think it doesn't make that big of a difference, so I don't care that much. But like if I had a button where I could press it and there just wasn't ranged, I would press it. Like I just would prefer the game that way.
What else would you change?
Okay, if we're talking about things that they should take out of the game, the
Yeah.
secondary password should just be removed. That should just not be in the game. Like that just should be a thing.
Okay, so you said it's not relevant. It totally is, right?
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
the way things used to be, and actually one of the things that inspired this video for me, there were no pilots, right? Kingdoms were big enough that you didn't need them. And like it was a really big deal to have a kingdom where you had an Asian alliance and a European alliance and a US alliance to cover all the time zones. And I remember like distinctly you would look at the best kingdoms and that was what they would have. Such that like
Mhm.
when you went offline, you'd be like, okay, Asian alliance, y'all are holding the pass. You got this, right?
Yeah.
And, and now, right, you've got the secondary password and you have everyone's favorite thing, which are pilots.
Mhm.
I do wish that they would do something about that. And I miss the game when it wasn't like that because now there's so much pressure to be on all the time.
Let's just remove pilots from the equation, right? Like, because my initial point was remove the secondary password, right?
Yeah.
So if we remove the secondary password, even without elaborating any further, right? I think without even saying the P word, okay, we all know why there's a secondary password in the game, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. And I think if you are going to participate in activities that would require a secondary password, those may be risky activities. And I think if there are consequences that you suffer as a result of that, I think that's a risk that you took, right? And furthermore, lots of problems would arise if they took out the secondary password. I'm fully aware of that. Like there, all hell would break loose. Okay. Um, and I get that. Right. And so I know that they're never going to do it. I know that. But part of me just thinks, man, those problems would really solve themselves pretty quickly. Right. Because people would never do that again. Right.
Yeah.
So
Would you change anything about the Imperium Cap? Gaines and I had a whole long discussion about this, but I'm curious to hear your take.
I actually I've never played in an Imperium. I've been in 1568 forever. I actually don't really pay that much attention to like Imperiums, which is weird because I know like the 1960 KVKs are always like the biggest KVKs of the year and everyone's tuning in and all other stuff. But I genuinely like the only KVKs that I care about are the ones that I'm in. And so I mean, I don't really have a super strong opinion on Imperium caps, to be honest with you.
Interesting. Have you guys hit
Yeah.
Imperium a couple times?
Yeah, we tap it. Sometimes we break it a little bit and then we lose a bunch of weight during KBK and stuff like that. So like Kingdom leadership does, keep an eye on it for sure.
Okay, yeah. I think the issue that I've seen is, everything is a single kingdom, a single alliance kingdom now, and I kind of wish that
Yeah.
wasn't the case.
Right. Well, and it kind of goes back to what you were saying before, where like kingdoms used to have alliances in different time zones, and it would kind of work out that way. Like I know, 1568, for example, like we are a one alliance kingdom, but there are like groups of people that are in different parts of the world, and so it kind of works out in that same way.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that I feel like that would make sense too. But yeah, I don't know. I never really thought about it too much and how that affects game balance, to be honest, because it It's maybe it's affecting me in ways I don't know, but I'm not in leadership and I'm not in an Imperium, so I don't know. I just show up and click on the enemy.
Zoom out, strategic view, and click.
Yes,
That's
I
what
click
we
right
got
there.
right now.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Omniarch. You have anything else? Any last thoughts you want to share?
Yeah, let me touch on a couple of things actually that have changed because the topic of the video is then versus now, right?
Yeah.
And I actually think there are a lot of things that have changed that I really do like because I feel like we've spent a lot of time talking about things that maybe we would have done differently if you and I were in power or whatever the case might be. A couple of things. First of all, Commander swap. That was huge.
Yeah.
I feel like that was the most popular update they've ever released, and it's so popular that I still get people commenting, "When is it coming back?" And unfortunately,
Never.
the answer is that it's not going to if you've already had it. But love that, especially for new players, because now you can't really mess up in the early game. You kind of can, but you have a way out, right? So that I think is huge
That's a huge positive. Absolutely.
for sure.
Upgraded
Like the
res
danger
nodes
that
and stuff too. The fact that they brought KVK barbs back to home kingdom and upgraded resource nodes, like
yeah,
good quality of life changes.
huge change. Another one that this is also controversial, I guess. The remastered graphics, fantastic. I love them. I genuinely like people talk about how childish and cartoonish they are, and like that's totally fine with me. Like I have no problem with it looking slightly more cartoonish. I think the new graphics look amazing. I even liked it when the grass was neon green. I was like, oh my God, yes, bright colors. Like, I don't, maybe my brain is like wired like a 12-year-old or something, but I'm just like, yes, give me, I don't want dull colors. I'm staring at this all day. I don't know. But yeah,
What?
that was another one that it kind of came out of left field too, right? Because like
Yeah.
the game was 5 years old. It was looking outdated in my opinion, and I didn't think they would do it, and they did it, and I was like, wow, that's amazing.
But what about the commander reskins?
Hmm. Those are hit or miss. Those are hit or miss. Some of them I like, some of them I don't. Um, but the fact that you can swap back and forth is fine. Like I forgot they changed Ethelfled until I went back and clicked on it for a video.
Oh yeah, I've been
But
using OG Ethelfled since
yeah,
they changed it. They did my girl so dirty. They took
yeah.
away
I
her
don't know what it
heals.
is. Yeah, it's the heels, sure. Yeah. They nerfed forts, right? They've been working on forts and the rise of forts meta. Love that.
Oh.
Uh, the go ahead. Were you gonna say something?
Oh no, that's a huge one. I wish they'd do more with
Yeah,
that, honestly. They
yeah.
had the fast burn mechanic in one of the
Mm,
KBKs. I think it was
mm.
Tides, and then they got rid of it, and I was like, no, bring it back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the latest patch notes, they were talking about nerfing forts a little bit again, I think, right? With the
Yeah.
max health or something. I don't remember exactly. Um, so that's good. Also, I talked about, I think in the video that I posted today, which I don't know when this one's going up, but they announced that automatic barb hunting is coming or automatic
Woo.
barb farming or whatever. Love that. I'm super stoked about that. Um, and the other thing that they've introduced lately is the story-based KVKs, the
Yes.
King of All Britain event, the Orleans one, Siege of Orleans. I love those. I think that's amazing, right? So yeah, I think that for as many things and systems and changes that have happened over the years that, I sometimes I raise an eyebrow. I'm like, oh, that's an interesting change. Like maybe I wouldn't have done that, right? But there's also, credit where credit's due. There's also this like long list of things that's like, wow, I didn't think they'd ever do that, and they did that, and like that's awesome.
Yeah. No, they've done a lot of really good stuff lately, and I think that's what keeps me excited about the game. You know, they keep
Mhm.
changing things. The new commanders are exciting. The new formations are interesting. I'm really glad they didn't abandon the new mechanics as they added them, like with combo damage and smite, and
Right.
we won't talk about mighty healing and true damage,
We won't talk about the one that they did actually abandon.
But there's new mechanics, and that's fun and exciting
Yeah.
and interesting. So I think it's a win
Yeah.
overall.
I can appreciate what they tried to do with true damage. Like I get it. I get what they were going for. It just didn't really seem to work very well in the way that Rise of Kingdoms, were kind of ingrained in a certain way of the game working for 6 years, and it just seemed like people didn't love it.
Yeah. Well, sweet. Thank you for coming on OmniArc. It's a pleasure as always. If you guys haven't already, go check out his channel. It will be linked in the description, and it'll be linked above my head at the end of the video. And if you haven't already, drop a like on the video. And if you've enjoyed, hit that subscribe button for me too. You know, like, you don't want to miss my content.
Do
Thank
it.
you, as always.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. And before we go, what's going on, guys? Cheers.
Thank you all. Shappy out.